Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. We are going to begin box number 3 of my Japanese movie collection here. First one here is was pretty highly anticipated back in its day. Didn't really come through completely. And that is Robo Geisha. I think this is from Noboru Iguchi. Same director as The Machine Girl, I believe. And, after watching The Machine Girl, these new J. Gore films, and Tokyo Gore Police, both of which I really enjoy a lot, I was really looking forward to Robogeisha by the same people, and it was enjoyable, but it didn't hit the same level of entertainment value as The Machine Girl or Tokyo Gore Police, so it was a bit of a disappointment for me. The reason for that, I think, is that the middle section, I think, drags in terms of pacing, which is a big no-no for a film like this. The beginning's pretty fun. The ending is actually a lot of fun, too. But yeah, this is worth a watch if you want something that is crazy, goofy, and, yeah, I enjoyed it, but I kind of wish they would have shored up that middle section and had a little bit more action, better pacing during that part. But, I'm going to give this actually a second chance. I haven't seen this since I saw it the first time, and that was, goodness, what was it? This came out in like 2009 or something like that. So, I like having it in my collection. I'll give it another shot. Next film is a huge buy that I just made recently. That is Robot Carnival. Now, this was, from my memory, the very first anime that I had ever seen. It was broadcast on the Sci-Fi Channel in the United States, which, back in the day when they were more useful, instead of showing... They actually show wrestling now, or at least they did for a while. I mean, come on. Back in the day, they actually used to show anime, and quite a bit of it. And this is the first one that I ever saw. I think that was from Japan. An animated anthology. A lot of horror shorts in this. Some crazy fantasy stuff, action stuff too. This is a very, very cool movie. And it was kind of hard to find. I think it might have gone out of print for a few years, but then it just got brought back in the last few years too. At least I remember it being a little bit more expensive and difficult to find, but now it's back, so I snatched it up. Highly recommend this. I have to do a separate review on this. It's so good. And that will be coming eventually. A lot of horror movies we're covering in this video. Here we go. We got Rubber's Lover. I covered this in my Asian horror year in review of... I always get confused if this is 95 or 96. One of those 2 years. Very, very weird cyberpunk film. Very violent. It, especially near the end, man, some of the scenes are stomach-churning. Shot in black and white. Again, this deals a lot with psychic experiments. These scientists, like pump people full of serum and try to have them, progress in terms of, psychic abilities, and that could get quite violent. So this is very weird, but very cool. So check out my Asian horror playlist review of this if you want more details. I'm glad to have that one in my collection. The next 3 DVDs here is another one of those sets. They're 3 animated films. This is the part of the Samurai Horror Tales trilogy, I guess you could call it. The first film is Goblin Cat. This was my favorite of the bunch. So again, if you're going to get started with these, this is the one to start with. Let me just get a nice succinct synopsis for you. So within an old samurai residence, a young bride is inexplicably murdered. A mysterious medicine vendor suspects a goblin cat spirit is at fault, and that begins a series of spiritual defenses against further attacks on this residence. So yeah, this movie has some jaw-dropping animation. It's only about 70 minutes long, too. But the animation in this is really cool. It's a very different type of story, too, man. This guy shows up, and he uses a lot of charms and, spell casting to defend this residence. And the cat spirit attempts to power its way through and deceive them, all kinds of stuff. This is really good horror animated film that I highly recommend. The next one is The Goddess of the Dark Tower. Again, these other two, I think it's widely considered that Goblin Cat is the best of the three, and some people think the other two are just kind of okay. I enjoyed them both, though. So, Goddess of the Dark Tower. Let me check my notes on that one. This one is, while attempting to retrieve a lost falcon for his feudal lord, a bird handler is seduced by a goddess who resides in a cursed castle. So there's a little bit of a romance, forbidden love element to this one. I like it. Again, the animation quality is good. It has some more familiar storyline elements of of Japanese just films in general. But this is good. And then the third one is probably the most popular Japanese ghost story, Yotsuya Ghost Story. And we all know the story of this one. I've covered many different film versions in my Asian horror playlist. And eventually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an anime, horror, and television series playlist. And I'll try to catch up on them. I've seen a good number, but not enough to do a real comprehensive review. So I'll pack some viewings of those in and do that at some point in the future. But this is a good traditional Japanese ghost story that's been told many times, but not that many in animated form, I don't think. So it's worth checking out. Next one, another, man, we're covering a lot of weird stuff tonight. You got Robo Geisha, Robot Carnival, Rubber's Lover, Goblin Cat, and then we got one that could be the weirdest of them all, Sanguivorous. I never even heard of this movie. This movie was made in like 2007. I think it was released on DVD like in 2011 or 12 or something like that. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's like an avant-garde, black and white, mostly silent vampire film from Japan. So, again, it's shorter. It's a shorter film. But it's if you want something weird, man, check this out. I suggest watching some of the clips on YouTube. I think there's like a 4-minute clip or something on YouTube. If that grabs you, check it out. If you think it looks stupid, then don't. I covered this in my 2007 Asian horror playlist video if you want more info on it. Another horror film here that I thought was kind of mediocre. Scary True Stories. I think it's directed by Norio Surata. Yes, it was. And it's considered like one of the first of the new wave of Japanese horror films that shows like the onryo ghosts or like that, the type of supernatural stuff that was popularized by Ring-U. I thought, it's not terrible or anything if you're a fan of Japanese horror and those specific tropes. It's worth checking out, I guess. You might like it more than I did. It's an anthology of 3 films. And check out my Asian horror playlist from, I think, 91 or 92 I covered this. It's not bad, but I don't know. There's better ones out there to start with. One I'm going to cover when we get to 2011, which we are very close to getting to. Schoolgirl Apocalypse. This is one that flew totally under everyone's radar. Got a Region 1 release, too, in the United States. Nobody really bothered to watch it. I think this was surprisingly good. It was surprisingly entertaining. And I'm going to rewatch it. In fact, I'm going to rewatch as many of those 2011 Japanese horror films as I can, because I haven't seen a lot of them in a while. 2011 is going to be a little bit of a different year, you'll see. And I'll cover that in my Asian horror playlist. This is zombies. And it's very entertaining. Very atmospheric, too. A lot of zombie films don't have as much atmosphere as they should have. This one, I think, does that. And it does it very well. I really like that one. Alright, what's this one here? I think it's called Sealed Video 5. Yes, that's the Google Translate name. So if you really are looking for this, I don't know if I could really point it out to you where to get it. I think I bought it on Amazon Japan, maybe? And that site's real difficult to navigate. I basically buy DVDs based on DVD cover. It was either that or Yes Asia that I got this on. It's anthology of horror films. I'll cover it when we get to, I think 2015 maybe this was. It's pretty good stuff. Documentary style anthology horror films. I'll cover it later. One that I, again, covered. I think the year 2000 this came out. My boy, one of my favorite directors, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Seance. Again, this one has some good creepy moments to it. Very measured and high-quality film. I think this one might have actually been made for television, but it doesn't really look like it. Yeah, let's check out my review from 2000 for this. I like this one. It's a nice traditional kind of Japanese horror film with Kiyoshi's special style that you don't get anywhere else. Always makes it worth watching. All right, now our next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 DVDs are in the same horror series. Yes. And it's a horror series that is, I wouldn't say it's really hard to find, but it's kind of obscure, and it's expensive. You know, I had to accumulate these over time, but I'm still going to cover them in my Asian horror playlist when we get to, I think these came out between 2012 and 2015, maybe? And that's the Senritsu Kaiki File series by Koji Shiraishi, the guy who gave us Noroi. So the first series of movies, these are like made for television, or I'm sorry, they could be direct to DVD. I always get those two confused. It could be direct to DVD instead of made for television. But there's nothing in them that would prevent them from being aired on television. There's no graphic violence really, or nudity. But these are different films, documentary style horror films that deal with a different Japanese urban legend or theme. And they're all quite different from one another in terms of what their themes are. So the first one here, and I'll cover this in more detail later in my playlist, but the first one here is File 1, Kuchisake Onna, who is, of course, the slit-mouthed woman legend. And this is one of the better ones for the slit-mouthed woman. Some of the special effects in this, like you could complain about Koji Shiraishi's special effects at times. The special effects in this one are sweet. I don't know how they did some of this stuff. The second film, File 2, this is the one I have trouble pronouncing, I think. It's called, Fureru Yurei. It's about as good as I could do it. It's almost like a more generic, like haunted school type or haunted building type film. Still pretty good. Not as good as Kuchisake Onna version, but it's got its creepy moments. It is entertaining. Then File 3. File 3 is quite different. I've never quite seen a serious horror movie about this guy. One of their favorite, most popular yokai monsters out there, the coppa. I think that's what it is, isn't it? The coppa monster? Let me check here. I've read books on yokai monsters all the time, and I still, yes, it's the coppa. I still get them mixed up and I forget them because there's so many. This one is pretty freaking weird. Not in terms of like being surreal or stuff, but some of the stuff you'll see in this, it's almost played for laughs at certain times, like near the end. It's hilarious. Because it's like a turtle sprite that comes out and he runs really fast and punches people in the face. So it's you know, it's a little bit of a slow film, but it's got some classic moments in this that I really thought were funny. I'll cover it later in more detail. Alright, now the fourth one looks like it's Hanako-san, but let me confirm. It's got a girl sticking her head out of the toilet. Yes, it's Hanako-san, which we've seen a few different movies of before. This is, again, pretty good one. Pretty good one. I liked it. Now, is this the one? Hold on. Let me see. Hanako-san. Is this one the... Yeah, I'll cover it later. I'm trying to... There's one of these that has... It like goes off the rails in glorious fashion, and I think this is the one that does it. Some of the most unique stuff you'll see in a horror movie is in this sucker, and it's about a generic ghost story that we've seen a million times before. I think this might be the one, and I'll cover it in my playlist where, oh man, it's got some really cool stuff that will surprise you. All right, the fifth one here. File 5, Yotsuya Kaiden, but it's an updated version of it. It's like a modernized version of it, which is a little bit different. Again, pretty solid film. All of these are worth watching to a greater or lesser degree. Now, the problem, though, none of them are available with subs. I should have told you that earlier. But none of them are available with subtitles. They're all Region 2 releases without subs. But I think they're all worth watching anyway. And then, what do we got here? Number 6. And some of these actually deal with aliens as well. So you get like Japanese urban legends and you get aliens, which is really freaking cool. This is a strange phenomenon that occurs on a mountainside near a hydroelectric dam. So this one almost is like the grand finale before the finale. Or I should say it is kind of the grand finale of the first set, even though it's movie 6 of 7. And then the 7th one is kind of like the entire film's like this unexpected series of events after the finale. In this one, I don't want to give anything away in case somebody actually decides to watch any of these. But this one's really cool because some guy, I think that the entire film, and these all range from like 50 to 70 minutes or so each or something like that. The entire film is a dude trying to resurrect somebody. There's like a godlike entity in the sky, and this dude's trying to resurrect somebody, and he has to go through a series of rituals throughout the city at various points. Meanwhile, there's like zombies roaming around and stuff. It's pretty freaking wild. Koji Shiraishi, man, he really exhibits like his creativity in these films. There's some pretty weird stuff. So that's the 7th film set of the first like set. And then he began a second set, which is the Senritsu Kaiki File Cho Koasuki. Say that 10 times real fast. But he only made 2 of them. So I don't know if he was building, because these 7 films kind of build on a similar storyline, whereas these 2 just kind of are separate. So, these 2 kind of ramp things down. This is about some type of an animal spirit, which is pretty cool. I'll cover all these. And this one's about like a snake woman, which is pretty cool as well. So yeah, all these sets, all these movies are pretty sweet, but glad I have them in my collection. The next one here is one I think is underrated. Again, I covered it in, I think, 2001, my playlist, Shadow of the Wraith. This is from the director of Evil Dead Trap. I know Roger Swan gave this a terrible review. He hated it. But, or maybe he liked one part. No, I think he pretty much hated it. But I thought it was pretty cool. It's like 2 movies. It's like an anthology of 2 that have like a link between them. And check out my Asian horror review, 2001, I think this came out. I think it's pretty cool. It's got some atmosphere. 2 more horror films I covered. The Shin Mimibukuro Japanese films. This one is 100 Ghosts. Is it 100 Stories? I'm sorry, 100 Stories. I think these, let me check when these came out so you know what video to go to. That would be 2010 and 2009. So check those videos out for this one and the next one. They're both pretty good. Pretty good horror flicks. This one is Scream. Shin Mimibukuro Scream. I mean, how could you not blind buy this with that freaking lady on the front? She looks like she's... I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? Not bad, not bad. Now our next one here's... our last one right here, I guess. We're running out of time. Is one that's quite... it's one of the few instances where this has happened to me, where I've bought a horror or an action film blind buy without subtitles, which I do quite a bit, because I'm not sure if any of these films will ever be available in the U.S. The Senritsu Kaiki File film, they'll never release those in the U.S., trust me. So occasionally I blind buy stuff that looks cool, even if it doesn't have subtitles. 99% of the time, I can determine whether or not I like the film or not. But this one, I just couldn't come to a determination. And that's, oh, come on, what is this one? Shashin-bu or something. It's Shinrei Shashin-bu, the movie. And the reason why it's hard for me to judge this is because there's so much dialogue. You know what I mean? There's a lot of dialogue in this, and that made it impossible. Like, I can't assess the film. So this is one of the few times where I've been, you know, kind of stung by blind buying a movie because I don't understand the dialogue. You know what I mean? It'll happen once in a blue moon to me. Obviously, if I was blind buying dramas, that would be more of a problem, but horror and action movies, it should be easy to determine regardless. And but I'm going to give it another chance at some point, see if I can really determine whether or not I could give it a pass or fail grade. Or maybe I'll see it with subtitles one day, you know what I mean? So that's it for tonight. And be sure to join me next time, and we will continue to hammer through my Japanese film collection. I will see you next time.